Hello everyone, happy 2021, happy new year. This is Alyssa from Bloom to Fruit Tarot, and today's video is going to be our 2020 year end, 2021 year ahead reading. And it'll be split up into two different sections. We'll have the full-on reading first, and that involves 7 questions. I will be telling you what I ended up pulling for our beacon card, which is the overarching energy for the year ahead. And then I'll also be talking about the numerological vibration of this year, which is the number 5, and that's the Hierophant card. So I'll also mention that. And after the actual 7 card reading, I have also pulled 4 cards for each of the seasons. So a card for January to March, and then one for June to September and onward. So if you're ready to jump into this, just close your eyes with me and we'll take a deep breath and exhale. And just really ground in this moment and remind yourself that any messages that come through for you that really resonate, you can choose to keep those and walk forward with them. And if there are any messages or themes that don't really ring true for you and that you don't feel like taking with you, that's totally fine. Leave that behind. Just take what serves you here today. So this reading comes a little bit later than I had hoped, but the end of 2020 really did end up bringing up more of those difficult death rebirth themes. And so I needed a little bit more time to process that and deal with my feelings. So I allowed myself to do that. So here we are. It is a couple days into the year, and things have gotten off to, I'm not working, so not really a start, but there has been a start. I've gotten a few things done, and I have an agenda for the year, and an astrology calendar as well, which is going to help so much in the content that I create here and in my astrology and tarot message for the week ahead newsletter as well. So I'm really excited for the year so far. I do want to start by just giving you a general idea of the energies that I felt after I had pulled these cards and as I'm looking at the spread itself at the moment. So within the spread, I mostly pulled minor arcana cards. So these are the cards that have the suits of wands, pentacles, cups, and swords, and they resemble different points in the human journey, and they're more so challenges that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes bigger themes can ring throughout a few different of these situations or ideas that are brought up, but none of them are extremely pivotal in the same way that the major arcana cards are. So that really tells me, because I didn't pull any major arcana cards except for the last one, and that one was reversed, it tells me that this year is really a year for us to keep our heads down and focused on what's going on within our inner world. And last year was the Emperor year in terms of numerology. I had the Tower come up a lot for me last year, and it felt like a Tower year where things were being deconstructed. There was lots of chaos and things falling apart. And this next year, 2021, is kind of feeling like the aftermath of that, where things aren't yet put together, where we haven't yet cleaned up the mess, but at least it's in a place or a way that we can look at it more objectively and find some solutions eventually. It reminds me of when you're doing a deep clean of your house, when you have, cleared out into piles what you want to get rid of, what you want to keep, and then there's also a bunch of junk that you find, stuff that you find from years ago that you realize could actually serve you so, so well right now that you start playing around with. And then all of a sudden, you end up having this huge, what looks like mess in front of you. And it feels really overwhelming. If you've gotten to that point, it's almost like, whoa, what did I get myself into? I knew that this was a good idea at the beginning, but can I handle this? And we always end up cleaning it up. I mean, it would be pretty difficult to live in that chaos day to day. So we keep going, and I feel like 2021 is going to be that year of things feeling a little bit messy and unstable, and not everyone agreeing with the way things are supposed to look in the future, or agreeing with what the best thing is for us as a whole. But eventually having everything laid out like this, and having all of these little catastrophes happen within our lives and outside. Unfortunately, these things do need to happen for us to see things in a different way, and see things laid out so that we can piece together a foundation that fits the new society and the new world that we are trying to mold for ourselves. So with that said, I would like to first talk about the numerology of the year. Like I said, number 5 is the card of the year for 2021. And the way you come up with that card, you can do this with your birthday as well. In numerology, you just separate each digit from the number, and then add those digits together. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 is 5. And just gonna talk quickly about the Emperor, which was last year's card. The Emperor card is the number 4, and it represents stability, foundations, divine masculine. But with these cards, with this card's energy, and with all of our cards of the year, there are always going to be the potential for the shadow or the reversed meanings to come through as well. And last year, I'm sure you can agree, we definitely felt the reversed meaning of this card come through. And that means the breaking down of foundations, the questioning of ideals of the people in charge, the change of authority, the questioning of authority, the breaking down of these systems that have perpetuated the toxic masculine. And so in a way, both of these aspects are beautiful, and I want to come into the next card knowing that, because the next card, the Hierophant, if you've practiced with this card and you grew up religious or you didn't grow up religious, you may have a strong opinion to it. The Hierophant, card 5 in the Major Arcana, and this is from the classic Pamela Edward Rider-Waite deck. And I will actually be working with a different deck for our spread, but I wanted to show you this because it's the classic illustration. And this card represents, I'll show you in the deck that we're using, the Druidcraft Tarot deck for the spread. It's called the High Priest here. And this is basically what this energy represents, is the masculine religious authority, or divine masculine, because this energy, if it is upright, can be so balanced, and it's got the 2 pillars behind it that is also seen in the High Priestess card. So you know that there is a balance between polarity here, and that the feminine is embraced just as much as the masculine. Now in this day and age, what that means for us is taking a look at how we relate to religious structures. Even just hearing about this card and how it represents the High Priest, or, the Pope. How does that make you feel? That this year will be governed by this energy. Does it make you feel uncomfortable? These are some questions you can ask yourself as certain themes from the Hierophant come up for you. And the energy here is encouraging us to take on the seeking role, seek the knowledge that you desire, seek the traditional structures that you desire. If you're looking to dive into an area of study, this card encourages us to first learn the traditional meanings behind things and the classic writings or teachings behind them. And then we can weave in our perspective, our life experience, and our own channeling into those teachings. But we must first start with the foundations. It also represents teaching others and knowing that we have learned so much on our journey so far that we don't need to feel inferior. We don't need to feel like we can't share with others. This card encourages us to see what our strengths are and look back on what we've learned over 2020 even. But looking back on our lives as a whole, I'm sure we could find so many topics of interest that we've actually learned so much about that someone might be able to come to us and see us as an expert in. So use this year to see the sacred teacher in yourself as much as you are trying to find someone to teach you the ways of things. I like to remember when I look at this card that it is so valuable to learn from other people and from the original teachings. When I went to Catholic school, I went to Catholic school right on through to the end of high school, and I had some incredible teachers that reminded us when we're looking at bodies of text like the Bible, we have to remember that they weren't written in this day and age, and they were written by men who were just in the beginning phases of this patriarchal phase within humanity. So knowing that, we need to remember that we are different from those people. And in any of the teachings we encounter today, this year, even if it sounds like something motivational, we do need to filter that through our own discernment. And we have to ask ourselves, does that truly ring true for me? Is that a proverb that I'm going to choose to live my life by? Or is that something that I don't agree with and I can just move on and leave that behind? So let's remember that this year as we come upon any themes that we're trying to let go of, or as we begin learning things that really, really pique our interest, let us remember that just because this is a new exciting world, that we are our own unique person and that our experience is just as valuable as this person that is standing on a pedestal. And again, with the reversed meanings, they mean so much. So looking at the Hierophant reversed, I love the meaning of this card reversed because I am all about rebellion and shaking up the norms and questioning things and talking about the taboo and the things that really have been frowned upon with this patriarchal energy that our society today has been built upon. And that's just what the Hierophant reversed asks us to do. Is it asks us to question the ideals of the people that are teaching these things. It asks us to question the beliefs or the traditions that we grew up with and that we've held on to without even questioning if they were our own. And it also asks us to be open to what other people have to say about the way that we are sharing or teaching our teachings with others. We have to be open to critique and criticism from others this year because we are going to be asked to critique and criticize others ourselves. And it's important for us to flip these narratives, ask questions, and tell the people that have been in the light and on the pedestal for so long what is true for so many if it hasn't actually been shared. And so the fact, if you think about how many people in power are really, really stuck with the the upright traditional route of doing things in terms of authority figures and in power and in terms of running our world. Most of those people are living in this place. So when the topic of questioning these things comes up, there is going to be a sense of chaos, no doubt. There's going to be discomfort among a lot of people, and we just have to be patient with everyone. There's no need for us to shove our beliefs down anyone's throat. We have to know that our knowing of ourselves is enough, and people that want to learn will ask us. But it is important for us to ask ourselves questions, and if we begin questioning things, we do need to talk about them in certain situations when we know the person directly. So I hope that gives you an idea of what the Hierophant energy is like. I want to move on to the beacon card, or sorry, the overarching theme for our year that I pulled. And this is a major arcana card, and one of my favorites actually, because it is ruled by the zodiac sign that is my sun sign, Libra. So the card I pulled for us is the Justice card. And the deck I'm using here again is the Druidcraft Tarot deck by Stephanie and Philip Cargam, I believe. So the Justice card, it tells us that the theme for this year, even though things are going to look difficult and they're going to be messy and we're going to have to strip apart some of our beliefs and our foundations, that all of it is going to be serving our justice as a whole. And the Justice card is ruled by the planet Venus, right? So that's unconditional love and beauty and power and acceptance, patience, harmony. So even though our day-to-day lives aren't going to feel so harmonious, we're being reminded that all of this is happening so that we can eventually find an equilibrium again, so that everyone's needs are represented and everyone's voices are represented as well. And for some people, this isn't going to feel like justice. When you think about the conversation that's been on so many people's minds and computers and phones, the conversation of race, when a white person like me is addressed with a topic that she or he or they isn't familiar with, is justice for someone who is Black, Indigenous, or a person of color going to feel comfortable for me? Is, you know, seeing more people in politics of a different shade than me going to make me uncomfortable? In reality, it shouldn't, because how many white people are on the earth? A very small fraction compared to people of every other race and ethnicity. But for some people, it is going to feel uncomfortable because within their bubble or the community that they grew up in and they are around right now, it does not look like what the world is about to look like. And that can be applied to any marginalized community, right? We need to remember that just because we feel a certain way doesn't mean we have any say in the situation. It doesn't mean our voice is the voice that needs to be heard right now. And I know that a lot of us are on our healing journeys, and we've begun tearing up the trauma and the wounds that have brought us to the place in adulthood that we are today. But we need to remember that there is a time and a place to talk about our own stuff. And right now is the time to make amends for so many other communities that still haven't had their voice heard or been represented or been even treated with the necessities of life, like drinking water that's clean. So we need to remember where we stand, and we need to open ourselves up to these issues and be uncomfortable. There's no time to pass over the stories of upset like we used to. It's one thing to avoid being re-traumatized, but if you're in a position where you're a little bit removed from that community and you have the energy to educate yourself and share your knowledge with others, you need to be doing that, no matter how uncomfortable it is. We need to do that for everyone in our lives that has any sort of disability or any sort of marginalized condition. So, moving on to the actual spread itself, I'll tell you what these 7 cards that I have pulled for us are, and I guess the questions that I'm asking for these cards is what I'll tell you. So the first card will be the overall lesson 2020 has consciously taught us. The second card, a lesson asking to be received by us to close out 2020's energy. Card 3, what achievements we must celebrate from our year. And card 4, the energy we can call on in 2021 to embody our soul's true essence more fully. Card 5 is the main theme of the challenges 2021 will bring us. And then card 6 is a message from our guides and ancestors who have our best interest in mind to help us fulfill our highest potential in the year 2021. And the 7th card, the greatest gift we will receive in 2021. Okay. So, I'm going to start with the first card here. And this is the overall lesson 2020 has taught us. And this is consciously, right? So there should be a little bit of an idea that the themes I'm about to bring up have been present. But some of the other things, some of the other cards I pulled really got into the deep shadow parts that I don't know if I was ready to address. So this is a lighter theme. So the lesson that we've been taught is that we need to balance the things that are of meaning to us. For me, it was when the shutdown happened in Alberta in March. I started doing free tarot readings, and it was fun. I'd never done them before. I ended up doing 45, I think, over a month. They were quite draining though, and I spent all day doing them. And it was also spring, it was getting warm out, summertime, and my fiance and I hadn't spent a whole lot of time together. So that was something that I really had to realize was, okay, I get that I finally found something that I enjoy doing and that's bringing me happiness and pleasure. But I also need to remember that these other relationships, there are other things in my life that bring me pleasure, and there is a balance that's required between those two things. And you can see in this picture here, she's juggling what looks like 2 balls. And with this energy, the 2 energy is a really feminine energy. It's able to receive, but also give, and it reminds us of the give and take relationship and investing in things, people that really reciprocate our energy and our time. And I also learned that the hard way in another way. And maybe this rings true for you, but in 2020, I realized that there were some people that weren't reciprocating the energy in an honest way, and what I felt in my body, which was not joy, could have told me that. So the energy of Pentacles is earth energy, and it reminds us of our body, our material, the material world, the physical world. So it reminds us to do things and be around people that make us feel good. If you have felt called to step or pull away from people in 2020 so that you can make more energy and space for others, that is another theme of this card here. And marriage is a theme that comes up with this card as well, I think. I got married in 2020, so that's a big lesson, but so many other lessons within the idea of marriage and marrying two things, marrying two flows of ideas, two streams of ideas, I guess, or marrying two hobbies of yours. This could be in creating something as well, or also working with someone, marrying two colleagues and bringing their ideas together to create something beautiful and new. And the energy behind the card with the storm reminds us that even in this beautiful give and take relationship, there are going to be points when it doesn't feel like it is as balanced or as equal as we think it is. But that eventually, with the right people, as long as we are continuing to check in with ourselves and how we feel around people, eventually that flow will come naturally, and there won't be as much chaos surrounding it, or it won't feel as abrupt when we aren't getting the same reciprocity we need, because eventually we will be surrounded by people who give us the time and energy that we give them as well. And the second card is a lesson asking to be received by us to close out 2020's energy. And the card that I pulled for that is the Prince of Cups. So, looking at this card, we do have the little lake beside the prince. He's on a horse. He doesn't have any armor on, really. He's barefoot. And he does have some chainmail there, you know, around his reproductive organs, his really valuable parts. But other than that, he's pretty vulnerable to the elements, to predators, to attackers, I suppose. And the cup's energy is the element of water. So the element of emotion and your emotional being, your creativity, art, things like that. So the lesson that's asking to finally be received by us before we can move on into 2021's energy with grace and ease is vulnerability, and remembering to stop and enjoy every moment. Stop and enjoy the view, because you don't know what the next few steps of the journey will hold. We're being asked to remember that even in the dark, even behind the clouds, there is a little bit of moon shining. And if we can trust our intuition to slowly take the steps forward that we need and not look for guidance anywhere else, that we will be on the right path. This requires us, though, to stop and look around to see where we are before moving forward. Because if you can't navigate from where you are in this present moment, there's no point in knowing which step or which direction you're taking forward or going forward. So we need to remember that being vulnerable and listening to our emotions and our feelings and how we feel in certain places is valuable. That when we go to work and we feel anxiety, or we're not feeling right about something or someone, that there's a reason for that. When we have knots in our stomach every time we go to a certain place, that maybe that's not aligned with us. So we're being asked to trust our intuition, to really, really enjoy where we are right now and accept where we are right now, so that we can move forward with aligned action patiently. And the next card is a card that had come up for me a lot throughout the 2020 year. And I think on a collective level as well, we're all kind of feeling this. And this card is the achievements that we have to, or we must celebrate from our 2020 year. We must congratulate ourselves for achieving this level of healing. So this is the Six of Swords. And this card, it is illustrated in a similar way to the classic Rider-Waite tarot deck, where there is a boat with, I think, there are 6 swords altogether in the boat. They're sailing past a sun-filled horizon. So it's got a bright energy for the future here. Number 6 represents unconditional love in numerology. And this card, the Six of Swords, comes after a little bit, a period of conflict, a period of miscommunication, of confusion, maybe a period of people not speaking so nicely about you or worrying about what others have to say about you. It could be a period of overcoming verbal assault, overcoming speaking poorly about yourself. These conflicts may have happened within your own mind's eye as well. Remember that. So we really have to celebrate how we have lifted ourselves from that situation, how we have moved forward from it. And this isn't to say that we are completely healed yet. The Six of Swords is just over halfway, the halfway mark to the 10 of Swords, right? So there's still lots to happen and lots to overcome yet. But what we have overcome so far is a lot. And it's taken us acknowledging what emotional barriers are there. The water representing our overflow of emotions, and knowing that we need to somehow not get stuck in them and drown in them. We need to rise above them. And even though we still have things we're holding on to, we still have the swords and the wounds, that we are completely worthy of moving forward with someone who cares about us. And that can be ourself. That could be us taking over the mother or crone archetype within our own selves. But either way, we have realized this year that our healing is everything, and that we can't do that in certain places. And maybe you have removed yourself from certain communities, certain habits, certain groups of people, or even just certain ways of thinking that has really allowed you to be in a safer place to address all of the things that have come up for you. And in doing this, we have to remember that giving ourselves time to celebrate doesn't mean that there's no more work to be done. It doesn't mean that we're going to stop here. It just means that we're giving ourselves time to pause. We're giving ourselves time to take a deep breath. And notice how we feel. Sometimes that is so, so valuable, and sharing that with people and getting the help that we need has allowed us to take that deep breath. We spend years sometimes living in a state of fear or fight or flight, and to have been able to give yourself more room and taken the steps that you need to finally get some closure and some healing and take a look at these wounds in a different way, that is so, so valuable. And the biggest act of self-love that we really could have done for ourselves, because as a whole, last year, 2020, was pretty traumatizing, no matter what side of things you're on, especially if you are a sensitive person. So congratulations, celebrate yourself. You're doing well. The Swords energy, it is that mental, the verbal energy, right? So not having as much to deal with in that front really allowed us to step into 2021 in a better place. So truly, that was the best thing we could have done for ourselves. So this next card, as I was pulling it, I felt called to pull the one right next to it as well. And when I saw them and I turned them forward, I kind of realized why. So this card is the energy we can call on in 2021 to embody our soul's true essence more fully. And the first card I pulled for this was another Swords card. And the Swords energy is the element of air. It represents, like I said, the mental plane, knowledge, understanding, communication. And the Eight of Swords represents a whole lot of miscommunication, or at least a feeling like there isn't enough being communicated to you. Now, when you look closely, she does have her hands tied behind her back and she's got a blindfold on. But who did that is my question. And also, if I were her, I would probably try to wriggle my way out by cutting the rope around my wrist off with one of the swords there. So it looks like there's kind of a way out, at least from the way that I'm seeing it. Which reminds us that a lot of the situations we find ourselves in, or the dilemmas or habits or cycles we find ourselves in, we do have to remember how much of a role we play in them. And knowing and being vulnerable enough to acknowledge the role that we play in some of these harmful situations to ourselves and to others is imperative for us to embody our soul's true essence as 2021 goes by. And the card I pulled in conjunction with the Eight of Swords was the Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups is another divine feminine energy. It actually, I think it's a Two of Cups that represents marriage, not the Two of Pentacles. But yeah, this Eight of Swords energy and acknowledging where we play a role in binding ourselves and holding ourselves back is imperative so that we can fully engage in relationship with others in a loving and authentic way. That's what the Two of Cups energy represents. It represents a flowing of ideas and exchanging of feelings and emotions, and again, that reciprocity, but a really fluid trusting in that. And we can imagine this relationship being the relationship we have with ourselves. This could be that for you, and it could be that for me as well. But I think in relationship with others as well, it's important for us to realize where we are holding ourselves back, where we're putting ourselves in boxes and putting these expectations on ourselves from when we were in a completely different life situation that are unfair to ourselves now. Doing that is imperative for us to have these healthy relationships and be able to tell who is healthy for us. Like I said, tuning into our bodies and how we feel around people is really, really important. And the cup's energy is that intuitive energy. So listening to our intuition and trusting when our ego has maybe taken the lead and made us feel more binded and constricted than we actually are. It's really important for us to recognize and pull back, and maybe we can ask others. Ask the people that mean a lot to us, who we've been in relationship with for a long time, our family members. Maybe we can ask them how they've noticed where there are certain ways we're holding ourselves back. And again, just being compassionate with their answers and being compassionate with ourselves, knowing that whatever we're doing to hold ourselves back, it did serve a purpose for us for a long time. So that's all that the universe asks of us while we're doing this work, is just to be compassionate, understanding, and know that we are capable of more pain than we realize, and we put ourselves in a lot more pain than we realize for absolutely no reason at all. The fifth card in the spread is the main theme of the challenges 2021 will bring us. We have another Prince energy here. This is the Prince of Swords. And the Prince of Swords, you can tell he's moving quickly. He might not have an exact idea of where he's going, but at least he knows where he's going right now. And the Prince of Swords energy reminds us that in taking action, there is a necessity to rest. And even after taking action, like I said with the Six of Swords energy, after you take that big step, it's imperative to rest. You really do need to allow yourself time to regroup and recalibrate, figure out where you are now compared to where you were when you started this journey a long time ago. And this means that over the year, the challenges that come up for us will be in initiating, and maybe not necessarily the exact initiation, but keeping things going. We have to remember this year to pause after taking action, because if we don't, our challenge may lie in just being pushed back and trying to get somewhere faster than we were meant to. And if you look at the illustration here, he's got the royal blue colors. He's supported by the energy of air, and the horse totem represents an ability to move quickly and also to recalibrate quickly. So that is the theme of our lessons for 2021. Can we take what the universe is throwing at us and continue moving forward without the fear that what we've been working toward will be thwarted, without the fear that we need to start fresh? Can we just pause, recalibrate, and figure out what steps we need to take next? The importance in the energy of swords as well is the swiftness, the quickness of taking action. So that's another theme that's coming through, I think, is knowing how and when to take action. Not just continuing, but continuing until you know you need to stop and pause. And then the minute you know you need to take action, trusting your intuition enough to just go ahead and take it. Because this year, opportunities will only be around for so long. And it's important for us to communicate with others and stay open about what our desires are and where we're headed, because this sword's energy reminds us communication is how we're going to move forward. So we really need to remember to communicate when we are recalibrating. We need to communicate who our community is and how we're moving forward for that community. We need to recalibrate what our values are as well. And with this justice energy overarching, we must remember that the action that we take in order for us to achieve abundance, success, love, happiness, whatever, it needs to be aligned with the justice and the greater good of all in order for it to manifest the way that we are hoping, or in any way at all. So it's a really good idea for us to write down what our values are. What are the injustices that we discovered in 2020 and early 2021 that we no longer stand for? And even if we don't have a place in that community, how can we reach out and use our tiny little voice for as much as we can? You know, writing letters to people. If you have money to support in terms of donations, that's a great way as well. Giving time to communities, but doing anything you can, whether that's just educating your community and people that you grew up with that don't necessarily understand certain impacts of their actions or words or associations. So the challenge this year, the main themes of the challenges are going to be knowing when to move forward in aligned action with our own greater good in mind, and knowing when to communicate just enough and not too much to others so that we can continue opening up the doors of opportunity that are meant for us. So, card 6 is a message from our guides and ancestors with our best interest in mind to help us fulfill our highest potential in 2021. So, I love the card that we chose here because it does resemble the connection to the divine and to our ancestors through our emotional body. And that card is the 7 of Cups. The number 7 is a lucky number in a lot of cultures. If you think about the number 7 in the chakra system, there are 7 chakras. In astrology, there's also the 7 Pleiades, and those are 7 stars that are in the sky that you can still see today that were mentioned in a lot of sacred religious texts, and there are also lots of deity stories about them. The 7 Pleiades were believed to be the direct connection to the divine, and there's a story, I believe, of them being turned into angels in the sky, and so that's why they're all there. So the number 7 reminds us of our innate connection to the divine and how it's a direct channel through us. So that it really is the message from our guides and our ancestors, is that we need to take time to appreciate our divinity Look, and I mean, look at this illustration. He's looking at this beautiful mirror, or this beautiful pond that has reflective water because it's just so still. And he's looking at himself, but he's seeing the 7 cups. So he's seeing his innate connection to God, or source, and he's seeing how that runs through his, her, or their intuitive body as well. We need to remember that our internal waters are what signals our intuition, and our gut feelings, and the little nervous feelings that we feel in our body are a part of those internal waters speaking to us. So we need to remember that even though we see just this one tiny minuscule cup sitting on the shore, that in reality, when we look into the reflection, that there are 7, and that is our connection to the divine, that we are not just human, but we have the divine within us. And so in any endeavor that we go forward with in 2021, whether that's simply a relationship with ourselves, a relationship with others, or a new creative endeavor or project, we can trust that we have everything and more within us to channel the message, the image, and the vision that we so choose, to the right people as well. And even if our reality, our current reality, doesn't feel as abundant as we may hope or wish for, that it is so much more abundant than our ego or our mind will ever really be able to put together. So take the time for yourself this year, and in the first few months especially, to look back on how much you've accomplished and those little signs from the universe that you got throughout the year 2020 that reminded you that you're doing the right work, that you're in the right place at the right time, that you're meeting the right people, that you're on the right path. Take time to look back on those things. Maybe even start a journal where you write down little synchronicities that remind you of your connection to the divine. But this year, there's no doubt that remembering our divinity, our sacred love that lies within, will be the fuel to achieving anything that we desire. And the final card in the spread, which is a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, because it is the one major arcana card that I've pulled for us, but it is reversed. So it has a little bit of a different meaning. This final card is the greatest gift we will receive in 2021. And the card I pulled for us is the Strength card, reversed. So with this card reversed, it represents a loss of strength, a loss of foundations, a loss of a questioning of the mental capacity or the internal perseverance that we carry within us. So with that said, that means that our greatest gift this year is going to be being brought down to this place of feeling vulnerable, feeling weak, and not knowing where else to turn. Unfortunately, within the patriarchal structure of things, embracing your wild nature, in terms of femininity at least, isn't encouraged. And that is a really big theme that shines through with the Strength card face up, at least for me. So being kind of separated or seeing the separation that society wants us to feel from our innate, wild, animalistic selves may be the trigger to change that we need this year. And maybe you've felt like throughout 2020 you did need to muster up this personal strength, this internal strength to help you deal with these day-to-day things that have just been pulled from under you. And maybe in 2021, the feeling of not being able to do it alone is what we do need to experience in order for us to move forward as a society that respects everyone else's personal and internal strength in a fair way. Because with too much of this energy, or I guess it could be the reversed energy that came through. With this reversed energy, it's people using their strength in the wrong ways, being forceful with it. And that also is a theme with the Emperor card, which was the beacon card for 2020's year. So our greatest lesson this year is going to be recognizing where people have used their strength in a way that is not fair, and it's no longer strength, but it's actually manipulation. And seeing where we are doing that as well, seeing where we're being strong, but we actually don't need to be, because we do need help from others in that area of life. Maybe that may be the pivot to creating a more communal society, and a society that thrives off of community and interaction and sharing and teaching and giving and taking. So that is that. And then I do have the cards for each season as well, which I'm going to talk about next. So I mentioned before with the justice energy, we really need to take into account where we stand on issues. It's really important for us to know who we are and why we stand in a certain place. And if we've stood in a certain position for so long that we don't realize why we've been there, we need to start asking ourselves questions about that. So journaling on these topics is a really, really great idea, and becoming aware of resources where you can educate yourself on those topics, and also places that you can help communities that are needing it. And that you feel called to help in the moment will be important too. So I hope that that gives you some journaling work to do in the next little bit. The next cards that I pulled as well are a lot of the numerology is the same from the spread here, but I mean, it's life. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad, because those words are just completely objective anyway, or subjective anyway. Let's start though with January, February, and March. So what we'll be dealing with in January, February, and March is the Four of Swords energy. And this energy is knowing that you have done the work, knowing that you have the ideas and the project started, or at least a conversation started, but being patient enough to wait until the time is ready to start that conversation, start that project, or continue moving ahead in what you're doing. The Swords energy, again, is the mental clarity. The energy of 4 is the foundational energy. So we're going to be asked here, even though we want to move forward and be productive and progress throughout January, February, and March, we're going to be asked to wait for the right time and the right opportunity. And we need to hold on to those little nuggets. They will come in handy, and they might end up being a weapon for us to defend ourselves with in the future as well. So what you are cultivating right now is important, and what you're realizing right now is important. This might be a realization of maybe it's a relationship you're in with work, with a person, with a habit, a conversation, or the way that someone talks to you. This is probably an idea starting to form that is new to you, and you really want to pounce on it and bring it to certain people. Or maybe it's you realizing that something not so good is happening and being talked about or in the works, and you want to uncover it and tell the right people about it. But throughout January, February, and March, it's important to wait for the right time. And of course, this doesn't apply to any illegal activity, or if anyone's in a dangerous situation, do not take this advice. But if this is an issue at work or something like that, definitely the universe is asking us to take our time and wait until we receive all the information to really, really take action on this. And then from April, May, and June, we have the 8 of Cups energy here. So the 8 is actually the energy of the Strength card. The Strength card is the number 8 in Major Arcana as well. So this is the card that represents internal strength, perseverance, and moving forward. Throughout these months, April, May, and June, we are going to be asked to move forward despite any emotional baggage or any memories that may be wanting or holding us back and in the past. You see here that he's left behind, is it the 8 cups altogether, knowing that there are 2 more cups, the 9 and 10 of cups, that are worth so much more. And the 7 of cups we got in our spread earlier, and that represents taking the time to appreciate what you have. And like I said, that's necessary because appreciate what you have and what you are. And that's necessary because the next card in that sequence is the 8 of Cups. And this calls you to leave behind all of your material values and really just be left with the strength of what's inside. So if you haven't done that work to realize how special, unique, sacred, and intelligent you are, it's going to be way harder for you to turn away from these memories, relationships, patterns, and habits that don't serve your highest good. So throughout April, May, and June, we will be asked to continue moving forward. It's going to be an uphill battle. There's barely going to be light. It's not going to feel very great, unfortunately, through the months of April, May, and June. But as long as we have taken the time to remind ourselves that we always have the light within, we're going to be able to navigate well. And with that lesson that we are being asked to learn, which is the Prince of Swords, knowing when to pause, recoup, and also figure out where you are, is going to be important. It's going to be important that you do that as soon as you feel the need to, because quickly after, you're going to be asked to move forward again and leave shit behind again and flip your life around. So these lessons are all tying in as I get to the end of them, which is really, really beautiful. The card that I chose for July, August, and September was the first card in the major arcana, and this is the Fool card. So these are bright, positive energies. The Fool card represents the end and the beginning all at once, because it is the number 0. Some practitioners put it at the beginning of the major arcana, some put it at the end after the World card. So it really has a few different meanings. And through these months, we're going to be asked to not be afraid of any fresh starts that come. We're going to be asked not to be afraid to put ourselves out there and be beginners at something. We're going to be asked to follow our hearts, follow our dreams, and trust that there is source beside us, guiding us and helping us in the right direction. And the Fool energy as well is ruled by, sorry, my water bottle is falling. I'm trying to drink at the same time. The Fool energy is ruled by Uranus, and I love the planet Uranus. It represents uniqueness and being completely yourself. And throughout the months of July, August, and September, we're going to be asked to follow the desires that our truest heart is asking us to follow, despite any onlookers that look strangely at us. We're being asked to embrace what makes us different and to embrace what makes others different, so that we can all start these new paths with respect for one another, and then eventually these paths will work simultaneously with each other. But throughout the months of July, August, and September, taking chances, the work that we've done up until then will be serving us in making aligned decisions, in taking those first steps, and not being afraid of what lies ahead. And the final card that I pulled for us, and this will be the end of our 2021 year, the months of October, November, and December. And this is really, really beautiful. The number 7 represents, like I said, the connection to the divine and the support of our ancestors, angels, and guides. And so the card I pulled is the 7 of Pentacles. And the Pentacles energy is the element of earth, which represents actually ancestors and Mother Earth and connecting to the divine. So when we look at the card here, he is harvesting. He's harvesting his fruit. Everything that he's worked for from the Ace of Pentacles to now is happening, and he's doing the work that he has been waiting so long to do. Now, the Pentacles journey is not a quick one. The earth element is feminine, it's slow moving, it's patient, but at the same time, the Pentacles journey is one of utmost abundance. It really is the foundation of life that brings you unconditional love and unconditional support and abundance. So with knowing that, there is some hope at the end of the year that a lot of the seeds that we've been planting, sowing, watering, and watching over will finally begin to bloom some fruit for us. And we'll have the opportunity to sit and share that with others again. And just, embracing the cold that comes on with the winter months. He's got the snow behind him. Just knowing that after the harvest does come the cold. And again, another pause, another period of rest. So preparing us for that again is going to be important. But just embracing and taking our time in every moment of the year will be really, really key for us to be able to appreciate all of the abundance and beauty that comes to us, because it isn't going to come to us in the typical money or material way. Yeah, so that is our reading for the year of 2021, looking ahead, and then also looking at the year end of 2020 so that we can move forward with ease and acceptance for what is right now. If you're interested in joining the tarot and astrology weekly newsletter, there is a link in my bio. Follow that, and then you can subscribe at the link that says subscribe to the tarot, or sorry, subscribe to the astrology and tarot newsletter. And be sure to subscribe here. I'll be posting more videos occasionally about just like the basics of tarot and other fun things. So be sure to watch here. And let me know what you think below. I'd love to hear if there were any messages that really rang true for you in at least what happened with 2020, and maybe even you're feeling a lot of these challenges that are about to come on and the themes that are coming through for 2021. Maybe you've already felt that those have been present for you. I would really love to hear. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a lovely night.